Good morning, everybody. It's Friday and it's the end of our gardening week project, and there's been some fantastic work going on in all Google classrooms, and I've seen some amazing examples of shoebox gardens. They've been absolutely brilliant. Later on today we're going to announce who the winners are of our £5 vouchers. I'm not going to do it in the assembly now because we'll keep it to this, and then we'll sort out the winners later on, and we'll put that in the Google classrooms, and we'll put the winners on our Facebook page as well with photos of the gardens if we manage to get that done. Okay, so today we are going to think about things that we might find in the garden, and there's something that almost everything in the garden has got in common, and that all of the living things will grow from a seed. Okay, now I think you've probably sown seeds in school before. I think you've probably sown seeds at home, but I'm going to have a look at some seeds now, and I'm going to show you. So I've got my apple, really tasty apple. I hope you all really enjoy your apples as well. I'm going to be very careful when I do this because I've got a sharp knife. I'm a grown up, I'm making sure that I don't cut towards my hand. When you do this, I do expect you to use a chopping board so that you're much safer. And there we go. Can you see inside the apple? Look, just in there. There's the hole where the pip was, the seed. And there it is. And if we look in the other half, tell you what, let's chop it into quarters now. So we can see just in there, whoops, it's fallen out. Let's try another one. I'm just going to cut away just a little bit of the extra flesh there. And you can see just in there, there's the pips. Just in there like that. Can you see? Now, we know what an apple pip looks like. There we go, fallen out all over my desk. And we know that if we plant the pip from the apple, then we get eventually an apple tree, because from each one of those pips that you can see just there, just poking out like that, from each one an apple tree would grow. So what I want you to do is jump up, stand up now, and I want you to show me with your hands, putting your hands up above your head, how big you think that apple tree is going to be. See if you can be that apple tree. Get mums and dads to do this as well. Get them to join in and be an apple tree like that. Put your arms out like the branches. It's really big. Now it can grow much bigger than a person, much bigger than me, much bigger even than Mr. Babington. Now, Jesus once asked people listening to him to think about an even tinier seed, which would grow into a really big tree. And this was a story, a particular type of story called a parable, a story with a meaning. And Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is like this. A man takes a mustard seed. And mustard seeds are really tiny, kind of orangey balls. And he sows it in his garden, in his field. It's the smallest of all the seeds, but when it grows up, it's the biggest of all plants. It becomes a tree, so that birds come and make their nest in its branches. I explained that we also have a saying, tall oaks from little acorns grow. So what do you think of our story, right? What do you think of our story? We've got this tiny seed, and we've got a massive tree. What do you think? What do you think it's about? And it means that from something very little, a tiny thing like that, something big and impressive can grow as well. So for many of the followers of Jesus, and for Christians, there'll be all sorts of important things about that one, because we could talk about Jesus. Now, Jesus was that one seed because he started with the idea and he spread his idea around, he shared it with everybody, and now we've got this massive religion. So Jesus was like the little seed. He was born in an ordinary place in a stable. He grew up in an ordinary home in an ordinary town, and for 33 years no one really noticed him. But Jesus was an example of how from small beginnings something big can happen, and one person can make a huge difference to the world, no matter how small or unimportant they may seem. So let's have a look at some people who've made a massive difference to the world with a very small start. So this first person is Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was born nearly 700 years ago in France, and she had to look after her father's animals because she was a girl. But she led the way in driving the English enemy out of her native country of France. Okay, pretty amazing. This is George Fox, and he was born in 1624 in a village in Leicestershire. He was an apprentice to a shoemaker, and he was the founder of the Quaker movement, and that's a religious group of people that was committed to peace, and that spread all around the world. Okay, here's the next one. And now this guy is very, very cool. His name is Edward Jenner, and he was born in 1749 in Gloucestershire, and he was an apprentice to a country surgeon, and he discovered the vaccine for a deadly disease called smallpox. But without Edward Jenner, lots and lots of people would have died of smallpox. Now, this is Mary Jones, and some of you might remember Mary Jones because I think when I spoke to Key Stage 2 a little while ago, we talked about Mary Jones. She was born in a village in Wales and wanted a Bible in her own language of Welsh. And this resulted in the formation in 1804 of the British and Foreign Bible Society, which has translated the Bible into over 1,000 different languages. That's amazing to think of, isn't it? Now, I think lots of people will recognise this next person. This is Florence Nightingale. Nearly 250 years ago, she was born and went out to nurse soldiers in the Crimean War, and she led the way in establishing schools of nursing and the modern hospital system. So just one person making a massive difference. Now, this person, when I was finding out about this and reading the information about my assembly today, I learned something new about him. Now, this is Rudolf Diesel. In 1858, he was born in Paris, and he left France because of war and settled in London, but he got no money and no friends. And it was this man who was the inventor of the diesel engine. So if you go to the petrol station and you put diesel in your car, it's because of him. Isn't that amazing? I didn't even know that diesel was named after a person. I'd never thought about it. There you go. Learned something new today. Right, and someone else, finally, who we have all heard of before, somebody who's made a massive, massive difference, Martin Luther King. And an ordinary black American from last century who came to lead the movement for peaceful change in America, helping to get equal rights for black people. So, we've got lots of people there who have made a massive difference. Just one person, but they changed the whole world, just like my apple seed will grow and make a massive change because it will grow into something huge. All of those things in your garden have grown from something very, very small into something very, very big. But it's not just plants and trees that grow from small things into big things. You are growing from small babies into big people. And you, no doubt, are going to have a massive, massive impact on the world. And one of you out there today might do something amazing, and you might change the world for millions of people because you invent a way to fly to Mars. It could be wonderful, and we could all go and live on Mars, and it could be all because you invented it. Or you could change the world with something so simple as kindness. We've talked lots in assemblies about being kind, about looking after other people, but you could change the world for lots of people because of the way that you help to look after others. Or you could change the world in a very small way, but just as important, by doing something brilliant in your local community and being a really kind person and an example and a role model to other people. So, what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes for me. We're going to have a bit of a think, okay? So, picture in your mind the night sky, full of stars. Think of how many stars there must be. That's too many to count. Think of the huge number of people there are in the whole world, and that's more than all the stars. Think of the vast wide world, and then think about yourself. What can you do to make a difference to the world? And think about today. What are you going to do to make a difference to the world around you? Will you say a kind word to someone who's sad? Will you help someone to do something that's difficult? Will you take care of the Earth's resources by recycling something? Will you cheer up the people around you with your smile? Will those who meet you today find the world is a brighter place because of you? Lots to think about, guys. So, open your eyes, okay, and see what sort of difference you're going to make to the world today, like that apple tree, okay? And if you've made a difference, then tell us all about it so that we can see what you've done and we can hear about it. And while you're having a think, about that, I'm going to have my apple. See you later.